Close your eyes for a moment and imagine never sleeping again. Not for a single night, not for a decade, not for your entire life. Every moment awake, every second alert, watching the world turn through sunrise after sunrise without ever drifting into darkness. No dreams to escape into, no unconsciousness to release you from the constant stream of sensation and thought. No morning awakening, refreshed and renewed. Just endless, continuous wakefulness stretching out before you like an ocean with no opposite shore. For most of us, the thought is unthinkable, almost terrifying in its strangeness. Sleep calls to us each night with an irresistible pull, a biological imperative as powerful as hunger or thirst. Without it, our minds unravel, our memories falter, our bodies accumulate damage they cannot repair. After just a few days without sleep, humans begin to hallucinate, their perception of reality fragmenting into confusion and paranoia. After longer periods, the consequences become even more severe, potentially fatal. Yet somewhere in the ocean depths, in the vast open sky, and in quiet ponds across the world, there are creatures that seem to have found a way around this most fundamental need. They swim through darkness without ever fully closing their eyes. They soar across continents without ever truly resting. They pulse quietly on the seafloor without ever entering what we would recognize as sleep. Tonight, we're going to explore one of nature's most puzzling mysteries, a question that sits at the intersection of neuroscience, evolution, and the very nature of consciousness itself. We'll meet animals that appear to never close their eyes, creatures that sleep with only half their brain, beings so ancient they challenge everything we thought we knew about rest itself. And in the process, we might just discover something profound about what sleep really is, and why all living things, even those that seem to defy it, ultimately cannot escape its call. Welcome to Bedtime Biology, where science meets serenity. Each night, we explore the quiet wonders of the natural world, calming your mind and sparking your curiosity. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and commenting below if you have any feedback or suggestions for topics of future episodes. Before we can understand animals that seem to never sleep, we first need to understand what sleep actually is. It sounds simple enough. You close your eyes, you become unconscious, you wake up feeling refreshed. But defining sleep in a way that applies across the entire animal kingdom turns out to be remarkably difficult. Sleep isn't just about closing your eyes. Many animals don't have eyelids at all. It isn't simply about lying still either. Some creatures remain in constant motion even while they rest, and it certainly isn't about dreaming. While humans, cats, and even some birds experience vivid REM sleep with rapid eye movements and neural patterns suggesting dreams, many animals show no signs of this sleep stage at all. So, what makes sleep sleep? Scientists have settled on 3 key characteristics that define a true sleep state across all animals. First, there must be a period of behavioral quiescence. This simply means a time of reduced activity and stillness, a noticeable shift from the normal bustling movement of waking life. Second, during this quiet period, the animal must show a decreased responsiveness to stimuli. Touch them, make a noise near them, shine a light on them, and they won't react as quickly or as strongly as they would when awake. This reduced awareness distinguishes sleep from simply resting with eyes open. Third, and perhaps most importantly, sleep must be homeostatically regulated. This means if you deprive an animal of sleep, it will later show an increased drive to sleep, taking longer or deeper rest to compensate for what was lost. It's as if the body keeps a running tally, a sleep debt that must eventually be paid. These three criteria, simple as they sound, are what researchers use to determine if an animal truly sleeps. And by these standards, sleep appears to be nearly universal across the animal kingdom. Insects sleep, fish sleep, reptiles sleep. Even the humble fruit fly, with its tiny brain containing just 100,000 neurons, enters clear sleep states, complete with reduced movement, decreased response to disturbance, and powerful sleep rebound effects after deprivation. When scientists kept fruit flies awake through gentle mechanical stimulation, the flies later slept longer and more deeply, making up for lost time just as a human would after pulling an all-nighter. The universality of sleep is actually one of its greatest mysteries, a puzzle that has occupied some of the finest scientific minds for more than a century. Evolution is ruthlessly efficient, an optimization process that has been running for billions of years, pruning away any trait that doesn't provide clear survival benefits while amplifying those that do. Anything unnecessary gets eliminated over evolutionary time. Wings that serve no function atrophy and disappear. Eyes in cave-dwelling creatures that never see light gradually regress into useless remnants. Vestigial organs throughout the animal kingdom bear witness to evolution's relentless economy. Yet sleep persists across nearly every branch of the tree of life, despite being, on its surface, deeply disadvantageous. Think about it carefully. When you sleep, you're vulnerable to predators, unable to defend yourself or flee from danger. Your senses dim, your reactions slow. You might as well be wearing a sign that says, "Easy prey." You're not finding food during those hours of unconsciousness. In a world where resources are often scarce and competition fierce, those lost hours could mean the difference between survival and starvation. You're not finding mates, not reproducing, not passing on your genes. You're not defending territory from rivals or caring for young who need protection. For hours each day, sometimes up to half your life, you're essentially removing yourself from the competition of survival. In the harsh calculus of natural selection, sleep should be an obvious liability, a behavior that leaves animals worse off than they would be without it. The fact that evolution has maintained sleep despite these obvious and severe costs suggests it must provide benefits so profound, so essential to life, that animals simply cannot function without it. Sleep must be doing something so important that even the considerable disadvantages, the vulnerability and lost opportunities are worth paying. But what could possibly be that important? What are those benefits? Despite decades of research, we still don't have complete answers. We know sleep is crucial for memory consolidation in mammals and birds. During sleep, the brain processes and stores information from the day, moving memories from short-term storage to long-term networks. We know sleep is essential for immune function. Animals deprived of sleep show weakened resistance to infection and disease. We know that during sleep, the brain clears waste products that accumulate during waking hours, including proteins that can become toxic when allowed to build up. We also know that chronic sleep deprivation causes profound health problems across virtually every bodily system, from metabolism to cardiovascular function to mental health. But here's where it gets interesting. If sleep is so universal and so essential, How do some animals seem to manage with almost none of it? How does a dolphin mother care for her newborn calf for weeks without ever fully sleeping? How does a frigate bird stay aloft over the ocean for months, sleeping less than an hour per day? And most puzzling of all, how does a jellyfish, a creature with no brain at all, still enter sleep-like states, suggesting that the need for sleep existed before brains themselves evolved? These questions lead us into some of the most fascinating corners of biology, where the boundaries between sleeping and waking blur into something strange and wonderful. The truth is, while the popular imagination loves the idea of animals that never sleep, no such creature exists. Not really. Every animal studied carefully enough shows some form of rest that meets at least some of the criteria for sleep. But the ways animals accomplish this rest, the durations they require, and the strategies they've evolved to minimize vulnerability while still getting what their bodies need, these vary in ways that challenge our very understanding of what sleep is and why it matters. Some animals have found ways to sleep with half their brain at a time, keeping one eye literally open to watch for danger. Others compress their sleep into tiny micronaps scattered throughout the day, never fully disengaging, but never fully present either. Still, others enter dormant states during cold seasons, sleeping so deeply that the line between sleep and something else entirely becomes impossible to draw. The story of sleepless animals, then, is not really about animals that don't sleep. It's about animals that have found extraordinary ways to adapt their sleep to match the demands of their environments and lifestyles. It's about the lengths evolution will go to preserve this essential behavior while still allowing animals to breathe underwater, fly across oceans, and survive in worlds where letting your guard down for even a moment could mean death. And as we'll see, studying these animals doesn't just teach us about sleep, it teaches us about the very nature of consciousness itself, about what it means to be aware, and about the ancient evolutionary forces that shaped the minds of every creature on Earth, including our own. One of the most remarkable sleep adaptations in the natural world belongs to dolphins, whales, and their close relatives. These marine mammals face a challenge that land animals never have to consider. They need to breathe air, yet they live completely underwater. Unlike humans, whose breathing continues automatically even during the deepest sleep, cetaceans must consciously decide to take each breath. Their breathing is under voluntary control. If a dolphin were to fall into a deep, unconscious sleep the way humans do, it would simply stop breathing and drown. This fundamental conflict between the need for air and the need for sleep has driven the evolution of one of nature's most elegant solutions: unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. Unihemispheric sleep means exactly what it sounds like. One hemisphere of the brain sleeps while the other remains awake. It's sleep and wakefulness happening simultaneously in the same animal, divided right down the middle. When scientists first discovered this phenomenon in the 1970s, studying captive dolphins with electroencephalogram equipment to measure brain activity, many found it difficult to believe. How could half a brain be asleep while the other half stayed awake? Wouldn't the awake side just keep the sleeping side from getting rest? Yet the evidence was undeniable. On one side of the dolphin's brain, the EEG showed high-amplitude slow waves, the characteristic electrical signature of deep sleep. On the other side, low-amplitude fast waves indicated full wakefulness. And most remarkably, The dolphin's eyes reflected this divided state. The eye connected to the awake hemisphere stayed open, while the opposite eye closed in sleep. Studies of bottlenose dolphins, the most intensively researched species, revealed that each hemisphere gets approximately 4 hours of slow-wave sleep per day. But these 4 hours don't happen all at once. Instead, sleep episodes typically last between 30 to 90 minutes before the hemisphere's switch roles. The previously sleeping side wakes up, while the previously awake side now enters sleep. This alternation continues throughout day and night, ensuring that both sides of the brain eventually receive equal rest, yet the animal never fully disengages from its surroundings. At any given moment, part of the dolphin remains aware, able to swim to the surface to breathe, able to maintain group cohesion with its pod, able to watch for predators, or navigate through dark waters. The discovery of unihemispheric sleep in dolphins led researchers to examine other cetaceans. Harbor porpoises, pilot whales, beluga whales, Amazon river dolphins all showed the same pattern. Some species swim continuously, even while sleeping, moving slowly through the water in gentle circles. Others rest more quietly at the surface or in shallow areas. But across all cetaceans studied, the pattern holds. One hemisphere sleeps, the other stays awake. Breathing continues, and the animal survives in an environment that would otherwise make sleep impossible. What's particularly fascinating is that cetaceans show very little or no sign of REM sleep, the dream stage that mammals on land experience regularly. In humans and other terrestrial mammals, REM sleep involves complete muscle paralysis, except for the eyes and diaphragm, vivid dreams, and unique patterns of brain activity. But in dolphins, clear REM sleep is either extremely rare or entirely absent. Some researchers suspect they may experience brief REM episodes, lasting just a few seconds, rather than the minutes-long periods seen in land mammals. But if cetaceans dream at all, they do so in ways too subtle for current technology to detect reliably. This absence of obvious REM sleep makes sense when you consider their need to maintain breathing control. The muscle paralysis that accompanies REM sleep would be catastrophic for an animal that must consciously swim to the surface for air. The neurological mechanisms that allow unihemispheric sleep are still being studied, but we know some fascinating details. The two hemispheres of a cetacean's brain are less connected than in most mammals. The corpus callosum, the thick bundle of nerve fibers that typically links the left and right hemispheres, is proportionally smaller in cetaceans. The optic nerves cross completely at the optic chiasm, meaning each eye sends its visual information exclusively to the opposite hemisphere, rather than splitting information between both sides, as happens in humans. These anatomical differences create a brain that can more easily function as two semi-independent units, rather than as a tightly integrated whole. Temperature also plays a role. When a hemisphere enters sleep, its temperature drops slightly compared to the awake hemisphere. This temperature difference may help regulate which side sleeps and which stays awake, though the exact mechanisms are still being investigated. What's clear is that the sleeping hemisphere truly rests. It's not just idling in a low power mode. The high amplitude slow waves indicate genuine deep sleep, the kind associated with restoration and recovery. Yet despite being half asleep, dolphins remain remarkably capable. They can swim, surface to breathe, maintain formation with their pod, and even respond to simple stimuli, all with only half their brain functioning at full capacity. Newborn dolphin calves present an even more extreme case. For the first month of life, baby dolphins show essentially no sleep at all. Their brain activity remains constantly awake in both hemispheres as they swim alongside their mothers. This sleeplessness appears to serve several purposes. Newborn calves have limited fat stores and poor thermoregulation compared to adults. Constant swimming helps them maintain body temperature in cold water. It also helps them build the muscles and coordination needed for the powerful swimming they'll require as adults. And perhaps, most importantly, staying near their mother and maintaining swimming patterns protects them from predators during their most vulnerable early weeks. After about a month, young dolphins gradually begin entering unihemispheric sleep, first for very short periods, then for increasingly longer episodes as they mature. Interestingly, their mothers also remain largely sleepless during this first month, keeping pace with their calves and providing protection. This suggests that adult dolphins can, when necessary, suppress their sleep needs for extended periods. They pay a price for this, of course. Mothers show signs of sleep debt after the first month, sleeping more deeply and for longer periods once their calves begin resting. But the fact that they can go so long with minimal sleep at all demonstrates just how flexible cetacean sleep patterns can be. The evolutionary origins of unihemispheric sleep likely trace back to the time when cetacean ancestors first returned to the water after spending millions of years on land. These early aquatic mammals still needed to breathe air, but they were beginning to spend longer periods submerged. Any genetic variations that allowed them to sleep while still maintaining some control over breathing would have provided enormous survival advantages. Over millions of years, these variations were refined into the remarkable system we see today, where sleep and wakefulness coexist in the same brain, divided into complementary halves that take turns resting while ensuring the animal never loses touch with its need to breathe. Unihemispheric sleep isn't unique to cetaceans. Some seals and sea lions also show this ability, particularly when in water. Northern fur seals can switch between unihemispheric sleep in the ocean and bihemispheric sleep on land, using whichever strategy fits their current environment. Even some bird species use unihemispheric sleep, but in cetaceans, this adaptation has reached its most refined form, allowing them to be simultaneously creatures of air and water, conscious and unconscious, awake and asleep. They are living proof that the boundaries between these states are far more flexible than we might have imagined, and that evolution can find solutions to problems that seem, at first glance, utterly impossible. The ocean isn't the only place where animals have evolved remarkable sleep adaptations to match extreme environments. High above the waves, in the endless expanse of open sky, birds face their own version of the sleep challenge. For species that migrate long distances or spend weeks or months continuously airborne, sleeping means finding ways to rest while still maintaining the complex muscle coordination and environmental awareness needed to stay aloft. The solution, once again, involves sleeping with half the brain at a time, but the details and demands are entirely different from what cetaceans experience. The great frigate bird stands as one of the most remarkable examples of aerial sleep. These large seabirds, native to tropical oceans worldwide, have long fascinated scientists because of their extraordinary flying abilities. Frigate birds can stay aloft for up to 2 months during foraging trips over open ocean, covering thousands of kilometers while hunting for flying fish and squid. Unlike many other seabirds, frigate birds cannot swim or float on water. Their feathers are not waterproof, and their feet are only partially webbed. Landing on the ocean surface would quickly waterlog them, and taking off again would be difficult, if not impossible. For a frigate bird, the water below represents danger, not a place to rest. So they simply don't land. For weeks at a time, the sky is their entire world. Until quite recently, scientists could only speculate about how frigate birds managed sleep during these long flights. The assumption was that they must use unihemispheric sleep, keeping one eye open and one hemisphere awake to maintain flight control and navigate. But assumptions aren't data, and measuring brain activity in flying birds presented enormous technical challenges. You can't exactly attach bulky EEG equipment to a bird in flight and expect it to behave naturally. It wasn't until researchers developed tiny, lightweight data loggers that could record brain activity and head movements in free-flying birds that the truth finally became clear. In a groundbreaking study published in 2016, scientists fitted great frigate birds in the Galapagos Islands with these miniature devices and tracked their brain activity during 10-day foraging flights over the Pacific Ocean. What they discovered was both expected and surprising. Yes, frigate birds did sleep during flight using unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, just as predicted. They would sleep with one hemisphere at a time, keeping the eye connected to the awake hemisphere open and facing the direction of flight. This allowed them to watch where they were going and avoid collisions with other birds or obstacles. But, unexpectedly, the birds also sometimes slept with both hemispheres simultaneously, entering full bihemispheric sleep while still soaring through the air. This discovery challenged the assumption that birds need unihemispheric sleep to maintain aerodynamic control during flight. Apparently, at least under certain conditions, they don't. The frigate birds typically engaged in both types of sleep while riding thermal updrafts, those rising columns of warm air that can carry birds thousands of feet into the sky. While circling within these updrafts, the birds could glide with minimal effort, their wings spread wide to catch the lift, their bodies rising almost effortlessly. During these periods of easy soaring, they would enter sleep, sometimes unihemispheric, sometimes bihemispheric. The sleep episodes were brief, typically lasting around 12 seconds, though occasionally extending to a minute or more. Then the birds would wake, continue soaring, and perhaps enter another brief sleep episode. The pattern was remarkably consistent. During daylight hours, while actively searching for food over the ocean, the birds remained awake. As the sun set and darkness made foraging impossible, they would climb on thermals and begin their sleep cycles. Most of their sleeping happened at night, while circling in rising air currents, taking advantage of the period when they couldn't hunt anyway to get what rest they could. Despite this clever timing, the total amount of sleep was shockingly small. On average, frigate birds slept only about 42 minutes per day while flying, a tiny fraction of the 12 or more hours they typically slept when on land. How can they function on so little sleep? This question goes to the heart of what we don't understand about sleep's fundamental purposes. If sleep is truly essential, if it serves vital functions that can't be bypassed, then frigate birds flying on 42 minutes of daily sleep should be suffering severe consequences. They should show impaired cognition, reduced coordination, health problems. Yet they don't. They successfully complete foraging trips lasting weeks. They navigate across thousands of kilometers of featureless ocean. They identify prey, execute complex aerial maneuvers to catch flying fish, and return safely to their nesting islands, all on less sleep per day than many humans get in a single night's first REM cycle. The frigate bird study revealed that the intensity of sleep, measured by the amplitude of slow waves in the EEG, was also lower during flight than on land. Even when sleeping, their brain activity suggested lighter, less restorative sleep than they experienced when safely roosting. And crucially, when the birds finally returned to land after their long flights, they immediately entered much deeper sleep. They essentially caught up on their sleep debt, resting for longer periods and with greater intensity than usual. This pattern suggests that frigate birds aren't somehow immune to needing sleep. Rather, they can postpone full sleep recovery until reaching a safe place where they can truly let their guard down. They're running on minimal rest during flight, accumulating sleep debt, then paying it all back once they return to their nests. Other bird species show similar adaptations. The common swift, a small bird that hunts flying insects, may spend up to 10 months continuously airborne during its migration and wintering periods. While no one has yet managed to directly measure brain activity in flying swifts the way it's been done with frigate birds, behavioral observations strongly suggest they also sleep on the wing. Bar-tailed godwits make non-stop flights of more than 11,000 kilometers during migration, spending over a week in the air without landing. These birds almost certainly reduce their sleep dramatically during migration, then compensate with extended rest periods once they reach their destination. The ability to sleep while flying has profound evolutionary implications. It allows birds to exploit resources and habitats that would otherwise be inaccessible. A frigate bird can forage far from any land, tracking schools of fish across vast stretches of open ocean because it never needs to return to shore to rest. Migratory birds can make marathon flights over hostile terrain or open water, reaching seasonal feeding grounds faster and with fewer dangerous stops. The selective pressures that favored these adaptations must have been intense. Birds that could sleep while flying could outcompete those that couldn't, surviving in ecological niches where others failed. Yet, the details of how avian brains manage this feat remain somewhat mysterious. Unlike cetaceans, where the anatomical basis of unihemispheric sleep is becoming clear, the neural mechanisms in birds are still being worked out. We know that birds have neurons and neural structures homologous to those involved in sleep regulation in mammals. We know that sleep deprivation affects birds in similar ways to how it affects mammals, with reduced performance and a strong compensatory sleep rebound. But the specific circuits that allow one hemisphere to sleep independently of the other, the signals that coordinate the switching between hemispheres, the mechanisms that allow birds to maintain flight during bihemispheric sleep, these questions still await definitive answers. What's becoming increasingly clear is that sleep in flying birds represents a beautiful example of evolution's ability to modify a seemingly inflexible behavior to match extreme ecological demands. Sleep isn't something you can simply eliminate, not without severe consequences, but you can compress it, fragment it, lighten it, and make it more efficient. You can split it across hemispheres. you can postpone full recovery and run up a sleep debt to be paid later. The sleeping bird in flight shows us that even one of nature's most universal and ancient behaviors can be reshaped, refined, and reconfigured to allow life to flourish in places and ways that might otherwise be impossible. Among the great whales, sperm whales have developed one of the most unusual sleep behaviors documented in any animal. These massive creatures, the largest toothed predators on Earth, spend most of their lives in deep ocean waters, diving to depths of over 2,000 meters in search of the giant squid that form the bulk of their diet. Such extreme diving requires incredible physiological adaptations. Sperm whales can hold their breath for over 90 minutes and have evolved specialized organs and metabolic strategies to handle the crushing pressures of the deep ocean. But all this diving and hunting takes energy, and eventually, even sperm whales must sleep. When they do so in a way that seems almost surreal to observers lucky enough to witness it. Sperm whales sleep vertically. They don't float horizontally near the surface like many other whales. They don't swim slowly in gentle circles. Instead, they descend to a depth of around 15 to 30 meters, position themselves perfectly upright with their massive heads pointing toward the surface and their tails hanging down into the darkness below. And then they simply drift. They hang there, motionless, suspended in the water column like enormous pillars. Their eyes close. Their breathing stops for the duration of the nap, which typically lasts 10 to 15 minutes at a time. They show no response to boats approaching them, no awareness of nearby activity. They are, for all intents and purposes, deeply asleep. This behavior was first documented scientifically in 2008, though whalers and mariners had reported seeing whales in strange vertical positions for centuries. The modern discovery happened almost by accident when researchers studying sperm whales in the waters off Chile noticed a pod of whales bobbing motionless near the surface. Initially, the scientists thought the whales might be dead. But when their boat accidentally bumped into one of the animals, all the whales suddenly woke and swam away. Follow-up observations and data from acoustic tags attached to whales confirmed that this vertical sleeping position is their normal sleep posture, seen in sperm whale populations around the world. Several factors make vertical sleeping advantageous for sperm whales. First, the position requires almost no energy to maintain. Sperm whales have enormous heads, roughly 1/3 of their total body length, filled with a waxy substance called spermaceti oil and large air-filled sinuses. This head structure is naturally buoyant, making the front portion of the whale lighter than the muscular tail. When a relaxed whale allows itself to drift, it naturally assumes a head-up, tail-down orientation. The whale doesn't need to actively swim or maintain any particular posture. It simply floats at neutral buoyancy, drifting gently with the currents. Second, the vertical position keeps the whale's blowhole near the surface, allowing for quick access to air. While sperm whales can hold their breath for extended periods, they still must breathe regularly. A vertical sleeping whale can quickly surface and take a breath without fully waking or changing its position. It simply rises those last few meters, breaks the surface with its blowhole, takes a breath, and then sinks back down to continue sleeping. Compare this to sleeping horizontally, where the whale would need to orient itself, swim actively to the surface, breathe, and then return to its resting position, all of which would require more energy and more conscious control. Third, And perhaps most intriguingly, the vertical position may facilitate deeper, more restorative sleep. While most cetaceans engage exclusively in unihemispheric sleep, there's evidence suggesting that sperm whales may be capable of bihemispheric sleep during these vertical drifting periods. When researchers approached vertically drifting sperm whales, the animals showed no response, even when boats came close enough that both eyes should have seen them. This lack of reaction to stimuli visible to both sides of the body suggests that both hemispheres might be asleep simultaneously, something that would be extremely dangerous for a dolphin that needs to continuously monitor its need to breathe, but potentially safe for a sperm whale during a brief, controlled drift at shallow depth. The amount of time sperm whales spend sleeping is remarkably small, even by cetacean standards. Studies tracking whale movements and activity patterns suggest they sleep for only about 7% of their day, making them one of the least sleep-dependent mammals known. In practical terms, this means roughly 7 minutes of sleep per hour, or a total of less than 2 hours per day. During these precious sleeping minutes, the whales typically gather in small groups, drifting together in loose formations. These group sleeping bouts may last several hours, with individuals alternating between brief naps and periods of quiet wakefulness. The social aspect of sperm whale sleep is also fascinating. Pods appear to coordinate their sleeping, with multiple whales entering the vertical drift position at roughly the same time. This synchronized sleeping may serve protective functions, allowing the group to rest together while still maintaining some collective awareness through individuals that happen to be awake at any given moment. Young calves sleep alongside adults, protected within the geometry of the group. Mothers with young calves often show even more reduced sleep than other adults, staying partially alert to monitor their offspring. Why sperm whales need so little sleep remains mysterious. One theory points to their deep diving lifestyle. During a typical foraging dive, lasting 45 to 60 minutes, a sperm whale descends into complete darkness, hunting by echolocation in the cold, high-pressure environment of the deep ocean. The whale must remain highly alert during these dives, using precise sonar to detect prey, navigating through complex underwater topography, managing its oxygen stores, and timing its return to the surface. These dives are metabolically expensive and cognitively demanding. Perhaps the intense focus required during foraging dives serves some sleep-like restorative function, allowing the whales to get by with very little actual sleep. Another possibility is that sperm whales are simply more efficient sleepers. Perhaps their brief naps are unusually deep or restorative, accomplishing in minutes what other mammals need hours to achieve. The vertical position, with reduced muscle activation and minimal sensory input from the dark surrounding water, might create ideal conditions for rapid neural restoration. Or perhaps sperm whales have evolved neurological differences that reduce their sleep needs below what other mammals require. Their brains show some unique anatomical features, including a particularly large posterior commissure and complete crossing of the optic nerves, traits associated with unihemispheric sleep in other cetaceans, but potentially enabling other sleep-related adaptations as well. Whatever the explanations, sperm whales represent another striking example of how flexible sleep can be when evolution shapes it to match specific lifestyles and environments. Like dolphins with their continuous unihemispheric sleep, and frigate birds with their aerial naps, sperm whales have found a way to compress sleep into a tiny fraction of their day, while still maintaining the complex behaviors and physiological processes that keep them alive. They sleep standing on their tails in the ocean's twilight zone, dreaming, perhaps, of the squid that swim in the depths below and the next breath of air waiting at the surface above. The American bullfrog holds a special, if somewhat controversial, place in the history of sleep research. For decades, bullfrogs were cited as the prime example of an animal that might not sleep at all. This claim originated from a single study published in 1967 by researcher J. Allen Hobson, who observed that bullfrogs seemed to maintain constant vigilance and responsiveness, whether they appeared to be resting or active. When Hobson applied stimuli to bullfrogs during periods of apparent rest, the frogs responded with the same speed and intensity as they did during active periods. More significantly, when he measured their brain activity using electroencephalogram recordings, the bullfrogs showed low-voltage, fast electrical activity even during rest, a pattern associated with wakefulness rather than sleep in other animals. These observations led to the intriguing possibility that bullfrogs simply didn't sleep, that they had somehow evolved to function continuously without the need for the rest that every other studied animal required. The idea captured imaginations. Here was a vertebrate, not so distantly related to mammals, apparently getting by perfectly well without sleep at all. If true, it would overturn assumptions about sleep being universal and essential. It would suggest that the functions of sleep, whatever they are, could be accomplished through other means or weren't necessary for at least some animals. The bullfrog became a textbook example, cited in countless papers and lectures as the sleepless amphibian. But science is a process of refinement, and the bullfrog story has grown more complex over the decades since Hobson's original work. First, it's important to note that his study focused on bullfrogs during their active months. Bullfrogs are cold-blooded amphibians that hibernate during winter, entering a dormant state lasting several months in which their metabolism drops dramatically, their breathing slows, and they become largely unresponsive to their environment. This hibernation is clearly not the same as sleep, but it serves some similar restorative functions. An animal that hibernates for months each year is certainly capable of entering prolonged inactive states. Second, more recent research has suggested that bullfrogs may indeed sleep, just not in ways that match the mammalian sleep patterns researchers were initially looking for. Subsequent studies have observed bullfrogs showing periods of reduced activity at night, particularly in more natural conditions outside the laboratory. These rest periods may not involve the dramatic changes in brain activity that characterize sleep in mammals, but they still represent a shift from the constant alertness Hobson described. The frogs are less active, remain in protected locations, and while still capable of responding to stimuli, show some evidence of a lower arousal threshold than during fully active periods. The challenge in studying amphibian sleep lies partly in our mammal-centric definition of what sleep should look like. We expect to see specific brainwave patterns, specific neurotransmitter changes, specific behavioral signs that match what we know from studying rats, cats, and humans. But amphibians have different nervous systems with different organization. Their brains are structured differently, their neurons fire differently, their sleep, if it exists, may simply look different at every level of analysis. Applying mammalian sleep criteria to a frog may be like judging a fish's swimming ability by how well it climbs trees. The question isn't whether bullfrogs sleep like mammals. It's whether they engage in some form of restorative rest that serves comparable functions. Recent comparative research on other frog species has revealed that sleep behaviors vary widely across amphibians. Some tree frogs, for instance, show clear sleep-like states during the day, with reduced movement and responsiveness, specific resting postures, and compensatory increases in rest following deprivation. These tree frogs meet the 3 behavioral criteria for sleep quite clearly. Other frog species show less obvious patterns, with rest periods that are harder to distinguish from simple inactivity. The bullfrog may fall into this latter category, not sleepless in any absolute sense, but engaging in a form of rest so different from mammalian sleep that it initially appeared absent. One key insight from modern sleep research is that sleep likely predates the evolution of complex brains. As we'll discuss shortly, even jellyfish, which have no centralized brain at all, show sleep-like states. This suggests that the fundamental need for periodic rest and recovery is ancient, woven into the basic physiology of animal life long before brains evolved to their current complexity. If simple creatures without brains need sleep, then surely bullfrogs, with their well-developed nervous systems and complex behaviors, need something comparable, even if it doesn't look exactly like human sleep. The current scientific consensus is that bullfrogs most likely do sleep, or at least enter sleep-like rest states, though perhaps in ways more subtle than initially recognized. The original 1967 study was groundbreaking for its time, but suffered from the limitations of studying a small number of animals in artificial laboratory conditions with technology that, while advanced for the era, was primitive by current standards. The study has never been fully replicated using modern techniques and methodology. Doing so would require long-term monitoring of bullfrogs in naturalistic settings, possibly using implanted sensors or non-invasive observation methods, combined with careful behavioral analysis and assessment of physiological markers beyond simple EEG patterns. The bullfrog story teaches us several important lessons about sleep research and scientific understanding more broadly. First, negative results, claims that something doesn't exist or doesn't happen, are always harder to prove definitively than positive findings. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because one study didn't detect sleep in bullfrogs doesn't mean sleep isn't there, only that it wasn't detected by the methods used. Second, our understanding of sleep continues to evolve as we study more diverse species and develop better tools for observation and analysis. What seemed clearly true based on 1960s technology and theory may need revision as our knowledge grows. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the diversity of rest and sleep behaviors across the animal kingdom is far greater than early researchers imagined. There isn't just one kind of sleep with slight variations. There are potentially many forms of rest, many strategies for neural and physiological recovery, many ways to balance the need for awareness with the need for restoration. Some animals sleep with half their brains. Some compress sleep into micro-naps. Some show sleep-like states without the characteristic brainwaves. Some remain partially responsive during rest in ways that blur the distinction between sleeping and waking. The bullfrog, whatever the final resolution of its sleep status turns out to be, reminds us that nature's solutions to the challenge of rest are more varied and more surprising than any single definition of sleep can capture. If the bullfrog's sleep status is controversial, the existence of sleep in jellyfish was, until recently, thought to be impossible. Jellyfish are ancient creatures, members of the phylum Cnidaria, which emerged at least 600 million years ago, long before the evolution of bilateral body plans, centralized nervous systems, or anything resembling a brain. A jellyfish's nervous system consists of a diffuse network of neurons spread throughout its body, with no central processing unit, no brain structure to coordinate behavior or consciousness. For decades, the prevailing assumption was that sleep required a brain, that the complex regulation of sleep states, the cycling between consciousness and unconsciousness, the homeostatic tracking of sleep debt, all of these were properties that only centralized nervous systems could produce. Jellyfish might rest, might become inactive, but they couldn't truly sleep, or so everyone thought. In 2017, a team of researchers at the California Institute of Technology published a study that overturned these assumptions. They had been studying Cassiopeia, commonly known as upside-down jellyfish, a genus found in tropical shallow waters and mangrove swamps. These jellyfish are small, typically just a few inches across, and they behave differently from the free-swimming jellyfish you might picture drifting through the open ocean. Instead, Cassiopeia spend most of their time resting upside down on the seafloor, their tentacles curled upward above their bell-shaped bodies, resembling miniature cauliflowers. They pulse regularly, contracting and relaxing their bells about once per second to generate water currents that bring them food and oxygen, while helping them expel waste products. The research team, led by graduate students Ravi Nath and Michael Abrams, wondered whether these pulsing patterns changed over the course of a day and night cycle. Using simple video cameras, they began recording Cassiopeia jellyfish continuously over 24-hour periods. What they discovered was striking. During the day, the jellyfish pulsed at their normal rate of about 1 contraction per second, but at night, their pulsing rate dropped by roughly 32%. The jellyfish were entering a distinct low activity state. This met the first criterion for sleep: behavioral quiescence, a period of reduced activity. But reduced activity alone doesn't prove sleep. The jellyfish might simply be conserving energy at night because there's less food available or less need to move. To demonstrate actual sleep, the researchers needed to show that the jellyfish were less responsive to stimuli during their nighttime quiescence. They devised a clever experiment. They placed jellyfish in a container with a mesh bottom, then lifted the container off the floor of the tank, forcing the jellyfish to float in open water rather than resting on a surface. Cassiopeia jellyfish don't like this. They prefer to be settled on the bottom. During the day, when disturbed in this way, the jellyfish would quickly pulse their bells and swim back down to rest on the mesh, usually within a few seconds. But at night, the same disturbance produced a very different response. The jellyfish took much longer to start pulsing and swimming back down, roughly 3 times longer than during the day. They were sluggish, slow to respond, almost as if they were groggy from being woken up. This reduced responsiveness during the quiescent state met the second criterion for sleep. For the final test, the researchers needed to show homeostatic regulation. They needed to demonstrate that if you deprive the jellyfish of their nighttime quiescence, they would show increased sleepiness afterward, compensating for the lost rest. The team kept jellyfish awake by periodically squirting small jets of water at them throughout the night, enough to disturb their rest, but not enough to harm them. The next day, these sleep-deprived jellyfish pulsed less frequently than normal, showing signs of increased tiredness. They were catching up on the rest they'd missed. This homeostatic response met the third and final criterion for sleep. The implications of this discovery are profound. Cassiopeia jellyfish sleep despite having no centralized brain, just a simple nerve net distributed radially through their bodies. This means that sleep, or at least the fundamental behavioral patterns and regulatory mechanisms that define sleep, existed before the evolution of brains. Sleep is even more ancient than anyone had previously imagined. It's not a product of complex neural architecture. It's something more basic, more fundamental to animal biology. But if sleep doesn't require a brain, what does it require? What is it actually for? These questions become even more pressing when we consider that Cassiopeia aren't the only brainless animals found to sleep. Subsequent research has identified sleep-like states in Hydra, a tiny freshwater polyp, even simpler than jellyfish. Hydra have a basic nerve net, a simple body plan, and behaviors that can be counted on one hand. Yet they too show signs of entering sleep-like states with reduced activity, decreased responsiveness, and homeostatic regulation. If creatures this simple need sleep, then sleep must be serving some function that operates at a cellular or metabolic level, something more fundamental than memory consolidation or neural circuit refinement, processes that only complex brains perform. One hypothesis is that sleep serves primarily to regulate cellular metabolism and clear waste products at the cellular level. All cells, including neurons, but also muscle cells, epithelial cells, and others, accumulate metabolic byproducts during activity. In complex animals with circulatory systems, these wastes are constantly being cleared away, but even so, periods of reduced activity may help cells perform maintenance and restoration more efficiently. In simple animals like jellyfish, which lack complex circulatory systems, this cellular-level housekeeping might be even more dependent on periodic rest. Sleep could be, at its core, a way for cells to temporarily reduce their activity levels, enough to catch up on internal maintenance, while minimizing the accumulation of toxic waste products. Another possibility is that sleep serves to synchronize cellular and tissue-level processes across the whole organism. Even simple animals need to coordinate their activities, ensuring that different parts of the body operate in harmony. The circadian rhythm that drives day-night activity cycles in animals from jellyfish to humans represents a fundamental timing mechanism that predates complex brains. Sleep might be one of the outputs of this timing system, a way to impose a regular period of low activity that allows tissues and cells to reset and synchronize their internal clocks. In this view, sleep is less about brain function specifically and more about whole organism coordination. The jellyfish research has also revealed interesting details about the neural basis of sleep, even in creatures with minimal nervous systems. When researchers examined gene expression in the nerve nets of Cassiopeia jellyfish, they found that sleep deprivation altered the expression of genes related to neurotransmitter systems, including pathways involving acetylcholine, GABA, and melatonin, all of which are known to play roles in sleep regulation in more complex animals. This suggests that some of the molecular machinery of sleep is conserved across the animal kingdom, shared between jellyfish and humans, despite 600 million years of evolutionary separation. Studies have also shown that treating Cassiopeia with melatonin, a hormone that promotes sleep in mammals, can increase their nighttime quiescence, suggesting that even jellyfish respond to some of the same chemical sleep signals that affect us. Similarly, keeping jellyfish in constant darkness disrupts their normal sleep patterns, just as it does in mammals and birds. The fundamental biology of sleep, the molecular switches and cellular processes that drive it, appear to be ancient and deeply conserved across virtually all animal life. The discovery of sleep in jellyfish forces us to reconsider what sleep really is and why it exists. It's clearly not just about brains, not just about memory or learning or consciousness. It's something more elemental, something that was important enough to be preserved across hundreds of millions of years of evolution in creatures as different as jellyfish and humans. The jellyfish sleeping on the ocean floor, pulsing slowly through its nighttime quiescence, represents something profound about life itself, about the rhythms that govern living things, about the universal need for rest and restoration that connects every animal on Earth in ways we're only beginning to understand. We've explored animals that sleep with half their brains, birds that compress sleep into brief moments while soaring over the ocean, whales that manage on just minutes of rest each day, and creatures without brains that still enter sleep-like states. All of these observations circle back to the same fundamental question: why does sleep exist at all? If it creates such obvious disadvantages, making animals vulnerable to predators and preventing them from feeding, mating, and defending territory, why hasn't evolution simply eliminated it? Why do so many different animals expend such tremendous effort finding ways to sleep despite hostile environments and demanding lifestyles, rather than simply dispensing with sleep entirely? The fact that no animal has successfully eliminated sleep, that even the most extreme adaptations still preserve some form of rest, suggests that sleep serves functions so essential they simply cannot be bypassed. But identifying those functions has proven remarkably difficult. Decades of research have revealed many important roles that sleep plays, but we still lack a single comprehensive theory that explains why sleep is universal and why animals die without it. Let's explore what we do know about sleep's purposes and why this most basic behavior remains one of biology's deepest mysteries. One clear function of sleep, at least in animals with complex brains, is memory consolidation. During waking hours, as we interact with our environment, our brains form memories by creating and strengthening connections between neurons. These connections, called synapses, are how information gets stored, but the sheer number of new connections formed during waking can become overwhelming. Synapses consume energy. They take up physical space. If we simply kept adding new connections without some form of pruning and organization, our brains would become cluttered with half-formed memories and weak associations, losing the ability to efficiently store and retrieve important information. Sleep appears to solve this problem through a process of synaptic homeostasis. During deep sleep, particularly during the slow-wave sleep stage, the brain systematically reviews the day's memories. Important connections, those that carry meaningful information or are reinforced through repetition, get strengthened and consolidated into long-term storage. Weak or irrelevant connections are pruned away, their cellular machinery recycled. This process allows the brain to optimize its neural networks, keeping what matters and discarding what doesn't. Studies in humans have shown that learning a new skill before sleep leads to better performance the next day compared to practicing and then staying awake. The sleeping brain literally rewires itself to incorporate new knowledge. But memory consolidation can't be the whole story. Many animals show sleep-like behaviors despite having tiny brains with limited memory storage needs. Fruit flies sleep. Nematode worms sleep. These creatures have nervous systems with thousands or tens of thousands of neurons, rather than the billions found in mammalian brains. They aren't storing complex memories that need consolidation. They learn, yes, but in simple ways that probably don't require elaborate overnight processing. Yet, they still need sleep. Deprive a fruit fly of sleep, and it will show all the signs of sleep deprivation that a mammal shows. Reduced alertness, impaired performance, increased sleep drive, and eventually, if sleep deprivation continues long enough, death. Sleep must be doing something for these animals beyond memory consolidation. Another function of sleep is cellular and metabolic restoration. During waking activity, cells throughout the body accumulate damage. Proteins misfold and aggregate. DNA acquires mutations from oxidative stress. Waste products build up faster than they can be cleared. Sleep provides a period of reduced metabolic demand during which cellular repair processes can work more effectively. In the brain, this is particularly important because neurons are extremely metabolically active, consuming disproportionate amounts of energy and producing corresponding amounts of waste. During deep sleep, research has shown that the spaces between brain cells expand slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flush more effectively through the brain tissue, carrying away accumulated waste products, including beta-amyloid proteins, that, when they build up, are associated with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of neurodegeneration. The immune system also appears to depend heavily on sleep. During sleep, the body increases production of certain immune molecules, particularly cytokines that help fight infection and inflammation. People who sleep less tend to be more susceptible to viral infections like the common cold. Chronic sleep deprivation is associated with increased inflammation throughout the body, higher rates of cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, and accelerated aging. The immune system doesn't shut down during sleep. In many ways, it ramps up, conducting surveillance and repair operations more effectively during rest than during waking activity. Animals deprived of sleep for extended periods eventually develop overwhelming systemic problems, often including immune failure, suggesting that sleep's role in immune function may be one of its most essential purposes. Then, there's the question of energy conservation. Sleep naturally reduces energy expenditure. When you're asleep, your body temperature drops slightly, your heart rate decreases, your muscles relax, and your metabolic rate falls by about 5 to 10% compared to quiet waking. For animals living on tight energy budgets, this savings might be significant enough to make sleep worthwhile despite its costs. Particularly for small animals with high metabolic rates, the energy saved during sleep could be the difference between surviving lean times and starving. This energy conservation hypothesis makes intuitive sense and probably plays some role in why sleep evolved, but it's unlikely to be the complete explanation. 5 to 10% energy savings seems like a relatively small benefit for a behavior so universal and so tightly regulated. More intriguingly, some researchers have proposed that sleep serves a function related to brain temperature regulation, or the optimal functioning of neural circuits. The brain generates tremendous heat during waking activity as neurons fire billions of times. This heat must be dissipated to prevent damage. Sleep may provide a period of reduced neural activity during which the brain can cool down and maintain thermal equilibrium. Similarly, neural circuits might simply work better when they're allowed to rest periodically. Like any system that operates continuously, neurons may accumulate errors, drift from optimal operating parameters, or develop imbalances that are best corrected during offline periods when the system can reset without affecting real-time behavior. Another fascinating possibility is that sleep serves a fundamentally protective function by forcing animals to disengage from their environment during times when activity would be dangerous or inefficient. For a small mammal active during the day, being awake at night might be pointless. It's dark, making visual hunting difficult. Temperatures are cold, increasing energy needs. Nocturnal predators are abroad, creating danger. Sleep, in this view, is adaptive inactivity, a behavior that evolved to enforce rest during periods when being awake would be disadvantageous. The fact that sleep is homeostatically regulated and can't simply be skipped suggests that enforcing this inactivity provides benefits beyond just keeping the animal out of trouble. The truth is probably that sleep serves all of these functions and more. It's not a behavior with a single purpose, but rather a state that enables multiple critical processes to occur more effectively than they could during waking. Different aspects of sleep may serve different functions. Deep slow-wave sleep might be particularly important for cellular restoration and immune function. REM sleep, with its unique patterns of brain activity, might be more important for memory consolidation and neural circuit refinement. The lighter stages of sleep might serve mainly to transition between deep sleep and waking, while providing some intermediate level of restoration. What's becoming clear from comparative studies across diverse species is that as we move through the animal kingdom, from simple to complex, from jellyfish to humans, the functions of sleep appear to build upon one another. The most basic functions, the cellular and metabolic restoration that even jellyfish might benefit from, are present in all animals. As nervous systems become more complex, additional functions related to neural circuit maintenance get layered on top. In animals with sophisticated brains capable of learning and memory, yet more functions related to synaptic homeostasis and memory consolidation become important. In warm-blooded animals with high metabolic rates, thermoregulation during sleep might take on additional significance. This layering of functions helps explain why sleep is so universal and why it's been preserved despite obvious costs. Any given function of sleep might be worth the price of vulnerability and lost activity time. But when sleep serves multiple essential functions simultaneously, functions that cut across every level of biological organization, from individual cells to complex brains to whole organism physiology, it becomes indispensable. Evolution can modify sleep, compress it, fragment it, split it across brain hemispheres, reduce its intensity, but it cannot eliminate it because doing so would require simultaneously solving too many different problems through other means. The animals we've discussed, from dolphins to frigate birds to sperm whales, haven't found ways to eliminate sleep. They've found ways to modify it, to shave off as much as possible, while still preserving enough to keep their cells functioning, their neurons working, their immune systems operating, and their bodies healthy. They live at the absolute minimum of sleep, running on the edge of what's physiologically possible. And even they, with all their remarkable adaptations, still sleep. They just do it in ways that minimize the usual costs, splitting their brains into shifts, compressing sleep into brief moments, standing on their tails in the ocean's twilight, all to grab those precious moments of rest that life simply cannot do without. We've journeyed through some of nature's most remarkable sleep adaptations tonight. We've met dolphins sleeping with one eye open, their minds divided between consciousness and dreams. We've soared with frigate birds, catching minutes of sleep while riding the wind across endless ocean. We've drifted with sperm whales standing vertical in dark water, napping in 10-minute bursts between breaths. We've questioned whether bullfrogs truly never sleep, or simply sleep in ways we don't yet fully understand. And we've discovered that even jellyfish, ancient and brainless, still need something that looks remarkably like sleep, suggesting this behavior is as fundamental to life as breathing or eating. What all these animals teach us is that sleep is not optional. Despite the diversity of life on Earth, despite hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary experimentation, despite strong selective pressures that should favor any organism that could dispense with sleep entirely, no animal has found a way to eliminate it. Instead, evolution has produced an astonishing variety of strategies to preserve sleep while minimizing its costs. These strategies reveal just how flexible biology can be when necessity demands innovation, but they also reveal the hard boundaries that even natural selection cannot cross. The persistence of sleep across all animal life points to something profound about the nature of living systems. Whether we're talking about the firing of neurons, the functioning of immune cells, the maintenance of metabolic balance, or something else we haven't yet discovered, there appears to be some fundamental requirement for periodic rest built into the very architecture of life. Cells need downtime, tissues need restoration, systems need recalibration. These needs are ancient, present in the first animals that ever existed, and they remain with us today, unchanged in their essentials despite 600 million years of evolution. As you drift towards sleep tonight, you're participating in this ancient ritual, this universal behavior that connects you to every animal on Earth. The same molecular mechanisms that make you drowsy operate in fruit flies and jellyfish. The same cellular restoration processes that happen in your brain during deep sleep happen in the brains of dolphins and birds. The same homeostatic pressure that makes you tired after a long day acts in creatures from the smallest insects to the largest whales. You are not alone in your need for rest. You're part of something vast and timeless, a pattern woven into the fabric of life itself. The story of animals that never sleep turns out to be a story about animals that always sleep, just in ways we're still learning to recognize. It's a story about the limits of adaptation, the persistence of ancient needs, and the remarkable creativity of evolution in solving problems that seem, at first glance, impossible. It reminds us that even our most basic behaviors, the things we do every day without thinking, are products of deep evolutionary history and serve purposes we're only beginning to understand. So, rest easy, knowing that in sleeping, you're doing what life has done for hundreds of millions of years. You're allowing your cells to restore themselves. your brain to consolidate its memories, your immune system to do its work. You're saving energy, regulating temperature, resetting neural circuits. You're doing all of this and more, fulfilling needs so fundamental that not even the vast creative power of evolution has found a way around them. Sleep well. The dolphins are sleeping with half their minds. The frigate birds are catching brief naps on rising thermals. The sperm whales are drifting vertical in the deep. And the jellyfish are pulsing slowly through their ancient, brainless dreams. You're in good company. If you enjoyed this exploration of sleep in the natural world, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Bedtime Biology. Share your thoughts in the comments. What aspects of animal sleep fascinate you most? Are there other topics in biology you'd like us to explore in future episodes? Your feedback helps us create the content that resonates with you. Until next time, may you sleep as soundly as a sperm whale in vertical drift, and wake as refreshed as a dolphin with a newly rested hemisphere. Sweet dreams.